You know, it's always a little bit hard to film, or at least at the very beginning of a new video, if I haven't filmed the previous weeks very consistently, because I just feel like I'm out of practice or something, I'm not sure, but I always sit here like all set up, ready to film. I've got my outline in front of me, I know what I'm supposed to do and what I'm supposed to talk about, and I just sit here and stare at the screen and I'm like, am I gonna sound like an idiot? And a lot of times I have to go through like the process a couple times at the beginning to like get going. I always find that the start of a video is always the hardest to like get into the groove of talking to you guys. I don't know. It's usually when I start off with my welcome back fantasy fiction fanatics that's like I get past that point and then I'm like, okay, what do I say? And then I have to start over because I'm just stumbling over myself until I get going again. But I promise I am no longer going to stare at the screen and wonder if I'm going to sound like an idiot or wonder what I'm supposed to say. I'm going to just hop in and get it done so we can have a great class today. Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome back, Fantasy Fiction Fanatics. It's great to see you again, and I hope you're doing well. Today's class is going to be on the next set of Gideon the Ninth chapters 25 through 30. But before we go ahead and jump right into our story, let's go ahead and discuss the trivia question. Thank you so much to everyone who always participates. I really appreciate everyone who plays with me. And great job today to some of those people who didn't know the answer but put in some creative guesses. It was really great to see what you guys came up with on how magic worked in the Belgariad series. But the correct answer would be the will and the word. So again, great job to those who gave creative guesses. I really liked what some of you guys came up with. And if you are following the Belgariad series, you probably knew this answer. But congratulations to both Paul and Christian. Great job moving that rock moron for answering correctly. Great job to you two, and thanks for participating. Especially you, Christian. I love the names. You always give such great names for me to read off to everybody. So anyway, thanks again for participating. If you want to join the trivia question this week or any other week, you're welcome to do so. It's on the blog, fantasyfictionfanatics.net. And if you are on desktop, it'll be on the right-hand side. You'll have to scroll down just a little bit to find the answer. If you're on mobile, you'll have to scroll almost all the way down in order to see the question and to be able to answer it. So yeah, thanks again for everyone who participates, and let's go ahead and get started on today's class. As always, we're going to start off with our recap, and then we will go ahead and get started on what I'd like to talk about today. I have quite a bit that I'd like to talk about and mention. We have a lot going on in these chapters, and it's getting very, very exciting. We're actually getting pretty close to the end. I think I'm only going to do 2 more classes on this book, and then we will be done and transitioning to book 2. So we're getting pretty into the thick of things right now, and you can definitely tell with how much is revealed and how much is going on in these chapters. So Gideon, we start off seeing the after effects of Jean Marie's death, how she's just kind of shuffling through everyone and all the chaos that is happening because Jean Marie has died. And I'm sure she probably told them what happened in that kind of shuffle of hers, that she's kind of all over the place. And so really she understands that she was killed while she was supposed to be protecting her and guarding her. And as she's resting in Dulcinea's hospital room, we do see a little bit of them chatting for a little while. We see a little bit of vulnerability from both of them. And then when Gideon leaves Dulcinea's room, she runs into Silas, who tries to convince her to come to his quarters and have tea with both him and his cavalier. And says that he has been talking to Glorica and knows a lot about Gideon and her position and the predicament of the Ninth House. So Palamedes is still trying to work with Harrow, and Harrow is sort of still working with him. He convinces her to give up the information that she has in order to show her about a locked room and have her unlock the door for him if possible. And she agrees, so she helps unlock the door and agrees to give them her information. And Harrow ends up afterward forbidding Gideon to see Dulcinea ever again, which makes Gideon go off the deep end and kind of verbally attacks Harrow, saying that she is not accepting of that, and decides to betray Harrow by going to see Silas. Silas then, during this meeting, tries to convince her to give him all of her keys, which she refuses to do, and only barely escapes this encounter by the Cavalier, who gave his word that she would not be harmed, letting her go. And she kind of wanders around, has a couple different interactions, but then she ends up getting back to her and Harrow's quarters, looks through Harrow's things, and finds Prostilius's head in a box in Harrow's closet. So she takes that to Palamedes and is concerned that Harrow is the killer. But they end up chatting for a little bit. He's not quite convinced, and she ends up telling him her secret about how Harrow's parents died. Afterward, they decide that they're going to confront everybody by showing off the head and talking to the group as a whole, and it is revealed that Prostilius was actually dead before he even arrived at the first house, and that he was reanimated in order to help Dulcinea come on this journey. So that's basically the main last thing that's happened right as our end of this set of chapters here. So the first thing I would like to talk about is how events have seemed to really have sped up throughout this book. So it's kind of more of a, I guess I could say a structural thing or a feeling thing of reading. At the beginning, we kind of start off very slow, trying to figure out what's going on. We keep, having a measured pace of events that are revealed, of the trials that Harrow and Gideon are going through. People are dying, yes, but it's really like a slow pace of measured pace of this is what's happening. We're learning about things that are happening. We're learning about what the rules of this game seem to be. People have died, yes, and they're kind of investigating it, but they're kind of going along on this plotted course of trying to become lictors. But now, in these last 5 chapters, it seems like everything is just like boom, 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 happen. Next event, next event, next event. A lot of things being revealed, a lot of things coming to light, a lot of anger and emotions, and so it seems like everything is now becoming a whirlpool of just so much happening at once. At least that was the impression that I got as reading it. And please let me know if you have a different feeling. Of course, I would love to know about that. But I think it's kind of interesting how the author has created a kind of slow measured pace as we keep going, and now that things are becoming chaotic, you actually feel the chaoticness through the events and through reading. We're really truly in the thick of things now. Like I said, we're getting close to the end. We're getting close to where the climax, should be coming, and the resolution for this story, which I don't think we're going to have really a full resolution. I believe it's going to carry over into book 2 based on what we've been given so far. But we truly see so many things happening with how thick the events are progressing. We're all over the place with revelations and with new information, we're thrown that Silas knows about Gideon, and we're thrown into the fact that Gideon sees the fact that she killed Harrow's parents. She believes that she killed them based on what she did all those years ago. And that Harrow and her both understand that Harrow hates her because Harrow also sees her as the person that killed her parents, even if it was a suicide. So we've got, the random appearance of Silas and his information, and why wasn't this revealed earlier? But it's being revealed right now when things are most critical. We've got the critical moment of Gideon's confession about how Harrow's parents died. We've got Harrow having a dead man's head in her closet. We've got the revelation of Dulcinea and, how house ended up sending her here with somebody who was already dead. We've got so many things just flying around, and it doesn't seem like they should be connecting at this point. Like, why all of a sudden now are we getting all these different things happening? But they are all happening right now, and it's really, speeding up on, like, these revelations coming in quick succession is kind of speeding up our progress and speeding up our ability to move through this story. Lots of intense chapters, a lot of intensity in our relationships. We also are testing different relationships, ones that we knew, ones that we didn't know. Palamedes and Gideon are having a connection of sorts. We have Dulcinea's relationship with Gideon. We've got Harrow and Gideon's relationship. We've got Silas and his Cavalier's relationship that we see some on. We see a little bit with Corona and her Cavalier. So we are seeing a bunch of different things kind of interacting all at once and being thrown at us as the reader all at once, making it a very chaotic moment in the reading, making it where you want to just need to whip through the book to get through all this chaoticness and just understand what's going on and understand where this author is taking us. So it's very, very interesting because before it just seemed truly measured pacing. It seemed like, we're just progressing through the story and the events are happening and we're seeing exactly how we get from point A to point B, and we're learning new things, sure, but it's not like craziness is happening. But now craziness is not only happening in the text, but for us as the reader, as we're kind of being thrown so many different things throughout this set of 5 chapters. I felt like this set of 5 chapters just went by so quick. Just in a blink of an eye, so many things were happening. And, you just wanted to keep reading in order to figure out what exactly is going on and where this is all leading us. That's the main question I have at this point, especially with how chaotic things are going, is where are we coming out the other side? Where are we being led to, and what will be the final result? Is anyone going to become a lector? Is Harrow particularly going to become a lector? And if so, what's going to happen to Gideon, and what will Gideon's relationship be? Is she going to earn her freedom, or is she going to still be locked into an agreement with Harrow? Next, I'd like to talk about Dulcinea a bit, and a little bit about the 7th house that she comes from, maybe a little bit about her Cavalier or whatever, but a lot of it will be Dulcinea and what Dulcinea has brought to us from in these chapters. Especially since we only get a little bit of interaction with her at the beginning of this set of chapters and a little bit at the end of this set of chapters, but I feel like Dulcinea has been a pretty prominent character from the second that they touched down on the first house. She was the first other person that we met from the other houses. She's always interacted with Gideon, had an interest in Gideon. Definitely more of a prominent character in regards to Gideon and having a relationship with Gideon and Harrow. So I feel like she is a little bit more of an important character so far through this story. And we've kind of learned a little bit more about her. We've talked about her a little bit more, kind of wondering exactly who she is and what she wants, that kind of thing. But I feel like she really brings some interesting concepts and ideas that I didn't really think about until reading this section. And I'd like to go ahead and explore some of those a little bit. And the first thing is her view of death. And I think a lot of this, based on what she talked about, comes from the 7th house and how they view death. But she mentions to Gideon that she feels like death is freedom. Death is a triumph. And that that the dead have a power over the living. And that last statement does seem pretty true based on the interactions that we've had so far with people having died, trying to bring them back, all that kind of stuff. And even so, she's still a little scared of dying, and she really especially does not want to die alone. So I think that that's really interesting. I think that it's also interesting that the 7th house sees her as so sacred and somebody that, you want to that they want her genes to be passed on because they think that she is in the perfect state of living where you're almost dying but not quite dead. And I just thought this was very interesting because we're reading about necromancers. We're reading about people who deal with death all the time. That their main function, their main magic has to deal with death and dying people. So I think that it's very interesting that when we're comparing Dulcinea and we're comparing the other people that we've known, that not everybody views death like Dulcinea does. They don't see it as freedom. They don't see it as something good. They don't see the beauty in it. That they want to live and to fight to live. Just as much as, I would say, our world, people in our world do. That it is such a precious commodity to live. Even though they are necromancers and deal with death all the time. And that their whole entire society is based around death and being necromancers. So I think it's interesting that only really one house sees the beauty and the freedom and the good parts of death, or seems to kind of worship death in a way, while everybody else thinks that dying is unfair, or that they don't want to die. I mean, the whole part with Magnus and Abigail is that they need to condemn whoever and lock up whoever did the killing. They're just like how we would. We want to investigate, find who the murderer is, make sure that they can't murder anybody else. Everybody's scared of being the next person to be on the hit list and to be sent to the next world earlier than they'd like to be. Everybody else is like, I don't want to be it. I don't want to be next in line. I want out, or I want to figure out what happened so I cannot have that happen to me. And I think that that's very interesting, that all this necromancy and all this death and the people who are dealing with it do not want to die. They are scared of death, or they don't want it to come too soon, or whatever else. They are fighting to live. They want to try and get messages out into the world to get help. And they're being blocked by teacher for whatever reason, that this silence cannot make an exception to contact the other houses. It's a very interesting and fascinating concept that from a society based around death, death is not viewed as more reverent or as more appealing or as more the end goal. Instead, everybody's trying not to die. So I just thought that was super interesting and wanted to bring that up, that we haven't really talked about the concept of the necromancy or exactly how it works and things like that. And I feel like we have a lot of gray area at this point of knowing exactly how this particular world works with its magic, other than we know that there are necromancers and there are not necromancers, and that the necromancers are kind of more of the upper class citizens, you could say. But we don't really talk about the death aspect of this culture. And I think that it is important, yes, but I felt like there was other important things and kind of got lost in there. But this really struck home for me, that Dulcinea's view on death, especially compared to Gideon's, is completely opposite. Gideon's feeling guilty and crushed and feeling like she failed, and Dulcinea's like, don't feel bad. They probably are in a much better place, with finally free from all of their worldly troubles. And it does make sense that Dulcinea kind of has this view in the fact that she is constantly suffering. But at the same time, she doesn't just want to lay down and die either. So she kind of has a mixed person, just kind of like the seventh houses, where death is wonderful and grand and beautiful, and dying slowly is beautiful. But at the same time, nobody really wants to take the plunge into death before their time. I'd really love to hear your thoughts and your feelings about all of that. I think that that's a really interesting concept that would be great to bounce ideas off each other and to see different points of view on it. And then just a little bit kind of interesting, something to talk about in regards to her cavalier, which is that he came as a reanimated corpse that seemed to be impossible kind of magic to have done. And so he was dead before he got there, and yet all of the, there were several, I think they said 7 or something like that. I don't remember the exact amount, sorry. I'll have to look that up. However many necromancers reanimated him and made it so that way he could come, so that way Dulcinea could come. Because they really needed Dulcinea to go, and Dulcinea really needed to go. She did not want to stay and just die at home. She wanted to come and give it her fair chance. So we still really don't understand how he got put in the furnace. We only know about Harrow, who had his head, which was interesting, but then the rest of him ended up in the furnace. So it's been quite a while since Harrow's had that head, since she found it before the corpse got put in the furnace. But apparently that was supposed to be a type of magic that could not happen, and yet it did, and Dulcinea feels like it's rather insignificant, that fact. So she really has nobody left for her. It's really too bad also for the Cavalier. I mean, it makes sense why he was kind of not around very often, and why he didn't speak much, but he's officially gone, and he apparently died beforehand. But she used him as a way to get here. And now she is kind of dying. Now she's kind of run out to her last moments. We're going to see how long she continues to hold on, but it seems very grim for her. Very, very interesting concept about the guy already being dead and his body being the one found in the furnace. So it kind of threw you off, thinking that somebody was killed before anybody got there, but then really the guy came dead and then was put in the furnace. So somebody obviously had to put him in the furnace and to try and mislead them or something, or not have him discovered. I don't know. And Harrow, of course, didn't bring up the head right away, so that's also an interesting point. But it feels very sad for Dulcinea at this point. It's very kind of heartbreaking. She's dying. Her Cavalier was already dead, and she really was alone this whole time that she was at this place. Maybe that's why she's caught the attention of Gideon so much. Maybe that's why she's trying to catch Gideon's attention. It's hard to say, but it is just a sad fate for Dulcinea at this point. And I do actually kind of like her, even though I still feel like I don't totally understand her. But I do think she is a very interesting character. Now, I think it's really important that we talk about Harrow and Gideon's relationship. We've got quite a lot going along with revelations and things like that for Gideon and Harrow's relationship, as well as just things happening right now. So I think it's really important that we kind of discuss it at this point, as well as kind of do a comparison of the past revelations that we have talked about, like kind of section out with the past revelations we've talked about, as well as what's happening now with their relationship in this part of the book. So for the past that we have finally had a little bit filled in for us is that they've always hated each other, but it was more of a civilized rivalry, I guess you could say, until the part where Gideon and Harrow both started blaming Gideon for Harrow's parents' death. So Gideon ends up telling Harrow's parents as a part of their immature rivalry, the kind that where they hate each other, but it's kind of in a more civilized, back and forth, immature, tattletaling, bugging each other kind of way. And ends up just thinking, hey, Harrow's doing something that she's not supposed to. I'm going to tell her parents and get her in trouble. And because she tells them about the locked door being open and Harrow opening it, they hang themselves, along with their Cavalier ends up hanging himself as well with them. And both Harrow and Gideon see it as Gideon's fault. So obviously that was when they were 10. They were very young. Obviously Gideon did not intend for them to do that, did not want them to do that, just wanted to get Harrow in trouble. And still, she believes that because she told on Harrow and made that decision, that she caused their deaths, that she could have prevented it by not saying anything. And Harrow believes the same because Gideon is the one that told them something that made them take that action. And that has started for us as a reader to understand exactly why Harrow hates Gideon so much. Why Gideon is constantly being punished by Harrow, and how Gideon wants to escape. Not only because she hates Harrow herself and how she's treated, but also because she's trying to escape, in my opinion, her guilt on killing Harrow's parents. So in some ways, I wonder if that is why Gideon is still nice to Harrow. I know I talked about it a little bit before, how I didn't totally understand why Gideon was so nice, despite how terribly Harrow treats her, about how extreme she goes to, and how, Gideon at times is almost killed because Harrow just decides to punish her. And I think in many ways, she tolerates that and is nice back and treats Harrow better than she deserves, because Gideon feels that she deserves Harrow's punishment. Because she understands that Harrow is punishing her because she killed, in Harrow's mind and in Gideon's mind, killed Harrow's parents. So it is not an arbitrary reason. It is not just a whatever, that she feels that there's a reason to be punished and that Harrow deserves to do that punishing on her. So yes, she does want to escape. Yes, she doesn't want to be treated that way. Yes, she doesn't like Harrow. But I think in many ways she feels that she deserves what she's getting. And that is why she tolerates it and why she acts kindly upon Harrow instead of acting nastily all the time back to Harrow. Now, right now, in their current state of their current relationship, everything has just completely disintegrated. Before, it seemed like they were slowly moving closer and closer together. They slowly seemed like they were putting their hatreds behind each other. And moving into a more cohesive Cavalier Necromancer duo. But that's gone completely out the window. It has disintegrated farther than it was when they got there. Gideon has that horrible outburst at Harrow after she tries to tells Gideon that she is never to see Dulcinea again. And Harrow just completely bombs the rest of their relationship after that. She's like, fine, I have nothing to do with you. Refuses to even look at Gideon anymore. Refuses to acknowledge her. Hates Gideon, and Gideon seems to say that she completely hates Harrow right back. I'm sorry, I'm having such difficulties here. Harrow claimed to never have even needed Gideon at all in this whole time. That she wasn't making progress, that they weren't becoming a team, that really she never needed her in the first place and barely thought about her existing at all. Really was a really harsh blow after Gideon has that horrible burst at her. So now it's just all the progress that we were making, or at least I thought we were making, and maybe we weren't, has just gone and blown itself up. We don't understand totally why Harrow is quite so adamant against Dulcinea. I mean, I do understand what Harrow has said about, how even though she had a Cavalier who couldn't really help her very much, and she's practically dying, she did get a key and she did move forward and she did figure out some things and decided to share the key with them. So she actually did pretty good for being somebody who's dying on her deathbed. And at that time, though we didn't know it, we understand now that Harrow also knew that her Cavalier was dead. So it seems very interesting that she is so far against Dulcinea, but at the same time, she doesn't handle the situation with Gideon well. She just demands, without explanation, never to see her again. So even if Harrow does have a reason, and maybe it's a very good reason, but the way she treats Gideon and the way that she handles the situation is not. And it seems almost like Harrow wants to say something back to Gideon in this major fight that they have, where she keeps wanting to deny everything that Gideon is saying. And that Gideon won't let her speak. At least that was my impression, is that I felt like almost like Harrow has just been beat down by Gideon in this moment. And so she ends up saying those awful things back about her not even being a speck in her life. And now their relationship has just disintegrated. I don't know if it's going to come back. I don't know if they're going to fix things. I don't know. I know that Gideon didn't trust Harrow now that she saw the head, and I know that Harrow obviously didn't trust Gideon enough or care enough to tell Gideon about the head that was in her closet. But we'll see if things develop back to, if they actually get a chance to really communicate. I feel like they never really communicate. And the times that they have kind of communicated was the times that they were doing well as a partnership. So we're going to see what happens with them. But we understand now where the animosity has come from in the beginning. And that's the whole point of Harrow and Gideon's relationship. They're the only two born of their generation. And I think that that's where that rivalry kind of came from in the beginning, is that it was more of an sibling kind of rivalry in a way, where, like, you know, they didn't really hate each other, but they just liked getting on each other's nerves and liked, you know, tattling on each other. But then when Gideon talked to her parents and that made them commit suicide, and then it became an actual hate for each other, and Harrow wanted revenge in many ways. But we'll see where things go. As I said, it does look like maybe something could happen. At the end, Gideon does go follow after Harrow and decides that she's going to trust that she's not the one killing everybody. And Gideon does say that, you know, before, Harrow, she would never have thought would have done that, because she always knew that there was a reason for the things that Harrow has done, that Harrow has always had a reason to do the things that she does. So in that way, Gideon does have some respect and some feelings of honor towards Harrow and her, and trusting her to be a decent person, at least when it doesn't come and involve her. So we'll see where things go. But right now, things have completely disintegrated, and we're gonna find out what that means moving forward. Okay, so a whole lot has happened in these chapters. Hopefully you will let me know down below, or however else you want to reach out to me, your thoughts, your feelings, if you have anything that you'd like to say, anything that I missed, any comments, any questions, any concerns, anything at all. I'd love to hear about it, and I'd love to know what you think of what's going on right now in the story. Let's move on to our nitty-gritty, our little last but not least section. I have 4 things this time, 4 things that I want us to mention, keep in mind, have just a little bit of a chat about. The first thing is that Silas knows a whole lot about Gideon and her situation. Basically knows everything about the whole situation. And believes that no one should become lictor. At least that's what he's saying, is that he believes that no one should become a lictor. That even he himself does not believe he should be a lictor. Of course, that could be a ruse to try and get everybody's keys. That's unknown. But it seems like he is saying that he no longer wants to play this game and have nobody ascend to becoming a lictor. As well as he believes that Harrow is killing everybody. He truly sows that little piece of doubt in Gideon's brain that she is the one doing it, especially because he mentions that Glarica and her son, who leave at the beginning of the story on this shuttle that was supposed to be for Gideon, and she's dead because that shuttle blew up and there was a bomb inside. So he's saying he believes that Harrow tried to bomb them because they tried to escape, and that is reason enough to believe that Harrow is killing everyone to get them out of her way. So what do you think about all of that? That's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting that he knew all that stuff before and hasn't said anything to Gideon about it until now. I'm assuming he knew about that before he arrived. So why bring that up now? Why try and do this now? And is it true that the shuttle was bombed? And if so, was it Harrow? Was it somebody else? It's kind of a mystery of things right now. It's hard to know which way to believe. And it's hard to believe that he really isn't interested in becoming a lector anymore. So what do you think about that? And let's go ahead and keep that in mind and see what we find out about it in the future chapters. Next, Palamedes thinks that Harrow would have already destroyed everybody if she wasn't innocent, and that is what proves that she's innocent. So Palamedes has a whole lot of faith in Harrow, a whole lot. He's the only one that's really tried to work with the Ninth, who actually, I think, respects and likes Harrow in a way, who actually respects and likes Gideon in an extent. So I think that it's very, very interesting that Palamedes is quite so sure of Harrow versus Silas, who is quite so sure that it's her. I think that that's very, very interesting that he trusts her so much and tells Gideon that he believes everything would already be on fire if it was her. And I do agree with that a little bit in the fact that it seems like Harrow is not one to let anything stand in her way. If she wanted to, I believe she really could kill all of them. But I think that, yes, all of them would be dead by now if that was the case, if she actually wanted them dead. So I kind of believe in Palamedes a little bit and his reasoning. I also understand Silas and his reasoning for saying that it's Harrow, and I believe that Gideon has a hard time knowing, and I understand that because Harrow can be a really horrible person and almost kill her, and yet also she's lived with her whole life and feels like she should know whether she's someone that would kill people just to kill them and get them out of her way. So I guess we'll find out what the truth is, but I do think it's very interesting that Palamedes is still so trusting of Harrow and it still believes that she is 100% innocent. And then another thing that I think is interesting and I'd like to know more about is the locked door. So what exactly is behind the locked door? Nobody seems to know, or at least nobody has told, and that it's supposed to kill anybody who opens that door and goes through. So whatever behind that door is super deadly, but Harrow has opened that door. I'm assuming she probably went in there. I can't imagine Harrow opening that door and not going in. So if that's true that she did open the door, and if she did go inside, that she survived whatever it is that was behind that locked door. So what could be so horrible that it basically kills you right away, and that's why that door is supposed to remain always shut, because they're keeping whatever it is inside. That Harrow survives, and not only that, but it scares Harrow's parents enough that the door was just opened, that they committed suicide, and the Cavalier. And what does that mean for Harrow, that she survived it? Does that mean maybe there's like some kind of creature behind that? Does that mean, or spirit behind that? Was she possessed now? Is that something that's going to come up, is knowing that Harrow isn't really Harrow anymore based on that experience? I don't know. Or maybe I really can't say. There's a whole bunch of things that I could spout out and be like, oh, maybe it's this, and I really have no basis because we don't know anything about this locked door. But I'd be happy to know if you have some kind of thought or feeling or expectation of what's going to be behind that locked door. I have many possibilities that it could be that she's possessed, it could be that she's some sort of special person and was able to survive it. But what could be so bad that her parents were so scared about that door being opened and whatever it is being released that they killed themselves? Very, very interesting, and hopefully we will learn more about it coming up. And last but not least, I just would like to talk about that little flimsy that Gideon found and hid from Harrow that had her name on it, that she now has given to Palamedes. So not only does she trust Palamedes in order to not tell anybody, but to also look into it. And she hasn't even told Harrow at this point about it. She just shoved it in her pocket and hasn't breathed a word about it. So we don't know what it means, first of all, that it has her name. But also it's pretty interesting that Gideon trusts Palamedes enough to show it to him and to ask his help in figuring out what it means. So hopefully that will be something else that will be answered coming up. I guess we will just have to see. Okay, that is it. As I said before, I'd be happy to talk to you about these chapters, happy to talk to you about Gideon in general. Please let me know either down below or anywhere else you'd like to reach me about your thoughts, feelings, anything you'd like to discuss or to discuss with your fellow fantasy fiction fanatics about. I would love to hear your thoughts and ideas and to kind of bounce things off of you. For the next set of chapters, we're going to be a little bit shorter segment based on how much we have left. Let's go ahead and read chapters 30 through 34 this time, pages 345 to 393 according to my copy, which is a Kindle edition. Okay, so if commenting down below does not work for you, you're welcome to contact me through Facebook, which is facebook.com/fantasyfiction1. You're welcome to contact me through Twitter, which is @fantasyfiction1. You're also welcome to join our Discord, so if you want to talk about this book or any of the other books that we are discussing, or any other fantasy things or non-fantasy things with your fellow fantasy fiction fanatics, you are welcome to join the Discord. The link will be down below if you would like to do that. We've got over 30 people on there now, which is really great. Thank you everyone who has joined the Discord and is chatting on there. We've really got a lot of different things going on, talking about Belgariad, talking about Dragonlance, talking about games. I know that we've recently started a little game on there where you can align music and a playlist in the order of your life that you think expresses your life to this point and share it with everybody. So we've got quite a bit going on over there, fantasy related and non-fantasy related. So if you just like to chat and hang out and have a good time and hear other people's opinions, or even get recommendations or anything else, go ahead and join the Discord. We'd be happy to have you. Also, if you want more content from me, you are welcome to go over to the blog, fantasyfictionfanatics.net. We have the trivia over there. There's a contact form if you'd like to reach me through there. You can also reach me by email, of course. And then on the blog, we have plenty of different things going on with different kind of posts. I have book reviews over there. I've got book insights where I do more actual spoiler-based reviews and talking about what I thought about the events of the books that I've read. I've got book recommendations. I've got some personal different things over there about me and my personal experiences with fantasy and reading and such. I've got me debating different fantasy topics and different things about reading and writing and all that. So lots of different type of content, lots of new things over there for you to discover if you'd like more content from me. Okay, I think that is everything for today. Once again, contact me if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, and I guess I will see you in the next class. Bye.